Welcome to Voices in Health and Wellness. This is where we explore the stories and insights of leaders reshaping the future of care. Today's guest is Dr. Karen Wallace, a GP and the Director of Clinical Partnerships at Maximus UK. Karen has built a career at the intersection of medicine, work and health, particularly in disability medicine, where she champions approaches that enable people to live healthier, more independent lives. Karen, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thanks for having me. Very happy to be here.
Wonderful. So maybe we could start a bit at the top. Could you perhaps talk a little bit about your journey from being a GP into your current role as Director of Clinical Partnerships at Maximus?
Yeah, absolutely. I've had a bit of a squiggly career, to say the least. I think when I look back at my medical school career, I didn't think that I would have ended up where I am now. So I trained as a GP and then I sidestepped into disability medicine and learned about occupational health. And I've been with Maximus now about 7 years. And within that company, it's given me such a wider lens because we have national contracts for both work and health. So we see it from both sides of the coin, and that's really sparked a passion and interest. So that is my journey, and more recently now I'm moving into kind of trying to build tools, looking at med and tech and the governance around it and the potential that we could change the landscape. So very excited about the bright future that might look like.
Thank you. So could you tell us a little bit more about the nitty-gritty of what you actually do at Maximus?
Yeah, so I started off in a role which is called a functional assessor, and I had never actually heard of it. But when I joined, Maximus was the second largest employer of healthcare professionals, which I also had, hands up, never heard of Maximus. So what that role is that we see customers or service users who've been signed off by their doctor with the fit note, and they have been deemed not fit for the workplace. If they've gone on to claim any sort of benefit, then they kind of come around through our service, and we typically spend anywhere between 45 minutes and 60 minutes with them, asking lots of questions just about their health problems, looking at their function, and then we look and make a recommendation on their level of disability, and that is a job in a nutshell. So we see roughly 6 customers a day, which I thought was an absolute dream coming from general practice. But actually the depth of the reports is something that I had never really done. I think that we kind of take a short history and we focus on the problem, whereas this is really going into the nitty gritty of how the condition can impact their lives. And that's the part that I really, really like hearing that.
Thank you. What drew you into this field in the first place? Was there a sort of a moment of inspiration or something which triggered your direction in this field?
It's a really good question. I think when I was a GP, I was probably a bit of a perfectionist, and I knew in myself that I couldn't do 30 odd years of caring this much and worrying. So there was definitely a bit of self-awareness there. But I also really love the bigger picture thinking. And so when I was in primary care, I was part of the CCG and the health education leadership. And so Maximus was actually just a sidestep. It was just a filler role to do what I thought bigger and better things. So I kind of fell into it, and I think a lot of people who come into this job do fall into it. But then but then they actually love it, and they love the patient contact and the actual time that you get with it. So came into a bit of a mistake, but as I've gone through various kind of roles in the company, I've had the opportunity to do kind of clinical governance and clinical innovation and various leadership stuff, which has led me on to do my MBA. So very squiggly again.
I think it's the most squiggly careers are the most interesting, because it means people have usually experienced different things, crafted a role for themselves, which is sometimes a little bit not quite so common. And I think it's interesting how people end up where they do. I guess there must be a bit of sorry, carry on.
I was just want to say, with the career and role piece, I suppose that has led on to probably how you find me. So disability medicine is not very well recognized. Nobody's really heard about it. And so that is one of my passion pieces to kind of raise the profile of our healthcare professionals and what they actually do, because most of them go, all of them go through about 2 or 3 months of really intensive training to do this job after going through, nursing school or medical school or physio. So there's that piece, but trying to educate and get people to recognize that we are part of an umbrella of Occy Health, and trying to really kind of get a space for ourselves in the work and health journey, and try and find our voice to help shape the system, so we can help shape our people and get the right support in the right place at the right time, which we've got lots to work on in the larger ecosystem there.
Thank you. And what shifts are you seeing in disability medicine and the way health and work intersect at the moment?
Really good question. The disability rise is going up. So COVID was a real turning point for it, and gone up by millions of people not in the workplace. Where we are seeing trends in younger people not being able to work, and longer spells of being out. And I think for me, coming from GP land, there's a real frustration of who should be that person who, when people might be falling out of the workplace or need some help and support, who should be giving that help and advice, that they don't fall out of the workplace, have to wait months to see us. And then if they are deemed not fit for any type of work, then, months and months roll, and then their chances of getting back into the workplace can actually be really, really slim. And what we know from the many white papers, green papers, is that work is a key social determinant of health. So good work is good for health. And I think that is a message that's not fully out there.
I guess there must be some tension between the work that you do and the clients that you're seeing and assessing. How do you kind of navigate that?
Well, I suppose it's important to say that we aren't the decision makers. But I think you touch on the fact that the system's quite misunderstood. So, and actually, as a GP, once I signed the fit note, I'll hold my hands up. I didn't really know the process or the system that my patients might be going through and the further assessments. So I think there's a misunderstanding that if patients are signed off by their doctor, one of our most common questions asked is, "But I've been signed off, so why am I here?" And what we say is that the doctors typically signed you off for a certain type of role, whereas we're looking at kind of your function as an overall, not just if you're fit for your building work and you have a bad back or things like that. Not to oversimplify it, but yeah.
Okay, so they can often come out with a positive outcome, even though there may be some apprehension as to what the process is going to involve for them.
Yeah, and actually, one of our biggest feedbacks is that they can't remember the last time that they spent a full hour with somebody from healthcare, which is really, really nice, because I do think that they feel listened to in that space of time.
Thank you. How do you say the role of healthcare professionals has changed in this area, especially for those in traditional diagnosing or treatment roles? And I appreciate you've come from the world of general practice, but I guess I'm thinking a little bit more wider in the space.
Yeah, and I think it's probably been a topic for a long time. Lots of people think maybe it's not the best use of a clinician's time. So that is something that is brought up. My view on it is that we need clinical expertise, but we need it at the right time. And I think one thing that I see a gap in is that we don't have enough people with a dual lens who are trained in clinical and health, but also trained in trying to get people back into the workplace. So the VOC, the VOC rehabs, the Occupational health. There's so many people and roles who we all work in silos now. And even within Maximus, we delivered the contracts, but because of the wider ecosystem, we cannot join that pathway. And so what I would love to see is kind of a tiered work and health journey. So patients are getting the right support, the access to health, and a joint up work and health conversation at the right level. And if that intervention hasn't helped, then the next year, and then you'll eventually see a clinical person or have clinical clinical oversight of what that looks like. So that's my dream. So bring it all forward and get different people trained in different ways, because I don't think that it's all clinical. It's very complex why people aren't in the workplace. And I think if we flip it from our reactive nature of the tiered approach, that's actually when somebody's probably fallen out of the workplace. And there was the Mayfield review in March this year that basically said that as a government, we need to help our employers reduce the barriers and really help people stay in long-term good work and not focus on kind of short-term sickness. So I think a lot has to change, and I'm not sure that we have the capabilities within the UK at the minute. I read some fact about 92% of large firms have Occupational health resource, whereas I think it's about 8 or 18% of small businesses do. Who's there to actually help support them, keep that person in the workplace? And so there's a big gap that we probably have to fill and think about going forward.
Interesting. You found your calling in this work, but do you think there are more clinicians are starting to see opportunities like this as part of their professional path?
Yeah, I think yes. It depends on their motivator, really. And again, I don't think anyone goes into medical school to think that they will become a functional assessor. But I think that my motivator as a doctor was patience and time and quality with them. So that's probably why I've enjoyed the job so much more. It, I think, can be a really nice portfolio career for somebody who still wants to be clinical, because what we don't do is we don't treat and we don't diagnose. And so some people do miss that. So I wouldn't say that it's for all clinical people, but we do have a really wide range in workforce. So we've got mental health nurses and paramedics and OTs and physios and nurses and doctors, so a whole range, and that is really nice to see. And MDT that isn't in the usual places. So, yeah.
Thank you. I guess we're still post-COVID, and we probably always be post-COVID. I'm trying to get some sense. Are there still people that you're seeing that have not been able to return to work through, long COVID or some of the associated conditions? And what are you doing with these patients?
Do you know, it's a really interesting question, because I think that there's a real misconception that everyone works from home now. So if you do have a physical health problem or something like that, there should be work that they can do because everyone works from home. But actually, a lot of these jobs that are, whether it's the entry level or whichever sector, they are manual jobs, they are face-to-face jobs, shops, they're in construction. And so I don't think that we've actually seen a massive labour market shift in what jobs are still available for people. And I think that's an issue. What are we doing about it? So we are independent, so we cannot signpost or treat, which is probably a frustration of a lot of our workforce, that we're in a prime spot, but yet we have to stay very objective. So I think that's probably a wider question and probably not for me to answer. Is there support there? I think from what we are seeing and hearing, and you will hear this too in your role, is that they're on a waiting list, but it's 2-3 years down the line. And if they aren't having the right intervention, then they're usually coming through us then.
And are there any misconceptions about disability medicine or work-related health that you'd love to see challenged publicly? Obviously, you've talked a little bit about the COVID thing and the working from home. Is there anything else out there that you'd like to see challenged, just so people have a better understanding of what goes on?
Yeah, I think one of the things, and one of the reasons why I didn't want to join the that sector originally, was that I read and understood a lot about, there's targets to the hit. So we have to say that there's X amount that are fit or aren't fit for work. We don't make that choice if somebody's fit or not for work, is the first thing to say. And there are no such targets. So that's something that I was very wary of, that it seemed to be that you had to fit people into boxes, and that's not the case. It's your clinical judgment, and that then compared with the policy and legislation. So I think that is definitely one myth to bust. If there's any clinical people listening to this, another myth is that the 113s and the forms that get sent as a consultant or a GP, we do read them. They're incredibly useful, and the more that you write on them really helps us make a judgment on the pathway that a patient might go down, whether it's a paper-based full assessment or a phone call or an actual face-to-face one. So if there are any healthcare professionals who never really get that closed loop back, they're incredibly useful. So, and I never thought that as a GP. I didn't really know what the form wanted, and I wondered if anyone actually read it. So
thank you. So what are the things that are working really well for you right now in your work or the broader mission of Maximus?
Yeah, I think one of the Maximus missions at the minute is to kind of have some thought leadership around that work and health journey. We're a company who do it from both sides and really see what improvements can be done if we weave in both sides of that journey. I think a lot of on the wider landscape, we are hearing from commissioners that they want tech, that they want a digital journey. So we're really looking at our systems and our interactions and our tech and a front door, and kind of building our strategy and plan of the 10-year plan which has been recently released, which I think everyone's doing now. We're to go looking at how tech can make it easier and more accessible for people to find out the information, to have assessments, to share some of their data. And it's just about doing that in a kind of safe and fair way. And that's probably something that I'm most passionate about now, in how we build in triage tools and how we look at artificial intelligence and make it safe. So looking at the regulations and the governance around that, and also, and I'm sure our workforce will be the same as many, we have a very wide ranging set of digital literacy. And so that's something that I'm really passionate about, trying to help and empower people to play safely in a sandbox and use those tools, and so then they'll be better equipped for the future to change our journey for the best way possible.
And is there any particular ongoing frustrations or challenges or bottlenecks in the work that you do that you'd like to see overcome to make your life easier?
Oh, bottlenecks. I think, our frustration is shared with the rest of the world, and we want to do things as quickly as possible. And I think everyone has great ideas. It's just moving at the pace that we want to help serve and shape our customers at the forefront. We have green papers and white papers and things like that. And the Mayfield review that did come out earlier in the year is just a discovery phase, and then the recommendations are out near Christmas time. And I think that when you're in the sector and you're waiting for those key moments, it can feel like a long time. Maybe I'm just very impatient, but we would like to kind of move a bit quicker. So,
and thinking about the next sort of 6 to 12 months or so, where would you like to be, or where would you like to see Maximus and the broader landscape of disability medicine?
Yeah, 6 to 12 months. What would I like to see? I would love to see some technology built into our systems. We are similar to the National Health Service. We work on quite old systems, and we don't have all of the functions that we would like to make our job quicker and easier, so then we can spend more time with our customers or making an impact in a better way. So my dream would be to actually see, scribes in our workplace. We type reports. Each of our reports are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of words, and we do that multiple times a day. So simple tech could make a huge difference. So that is what I would love to see in the next 6 to 12 months. In the next 1, 2, 3 years, I would love to see a combined work and health journey, and trying to break down those silos of just seeing it, work and getting people into work, or if they have any sort of health problems, they go down a different path. Really kind of, it should be the same path with a network around them to help support them. So that would be my dream.
Thank you. Finally, if you were starting your career again tomorrow with all the experiences that you've gained, what might you do differently, if anything?
Oh, that's a really good question. What would I do differently? I would be more vulnerable more quickly when I left the more clinical front line. So GP land, I kind of left with my perceived head held high, and I was tough, but I just wanted a change in like my career, and that was in 2018. And only in COVID, when I looked to go back and help support, did I write about my time and the real reason that I left. Like, my main trigger was about being called to an inquest, which was absolutely fine and for my care, but that kind of knock in confidence really knocked me, and I couldn't really get it back. And I wish that I had spoken about that earlier, because when I have shared, it seems to have reached so many, and so that's a regret. And yeah, I would probably be more vulnerable sooner and lead better earlier. Yeah.
Karen, thank you so much for your time and joining me on this conversation. It's been really fascinating and thought-provoking. I think our listeners will really appreciate your clarity on how healthcare and work overlap, and the vital role that clinicians like yourself can play beyond the traditional consulting room. So thank you so much.
Thank you.